Finally, it can start.
Alright, let's talk about the new DJI AVATA 2, which we have been working with or shooting for 2 weeks straight. And it was an absolute pleasure because we really had to use the drone. And for us as FPV pilots and cinematographers, that was a great way to figure out what are the advantages, where do you struggle potentially with such a drone? Is it an upgrade to the previous version? Or in general, who is this drone actually for? So let's start a little bit more general. So straight off the bat, it's definitely an upgrade to the previous version. The battery life is really, really good now. You can fly 15 minutes. I was impressed.
The battery now comes in and out using this pinch mechanism at the back. You pinch and it comes out. This means it's not going to release in a crash anymore.
Drone! Oh my god, that was sick! Ooh. Oh, is that the end?
Crazy small 4S 2150 lithium-ion battery. Could be part of the secret how they're getting so much battery life.
If you're not going crazy on the sticks in manual mode, you can literally fly up to like 15 minutes plus even. Of course, it's depending on the wind. That it just allows you in 15 minutes to get more and more creative, and you don't always have to worry about battery life.
One of the great things about this drone being ducted and so lightweight is you need to worry a lot less about it bumping into things and damaging them. This is one of the reasons we were able to fly this around the Oxford Natural History Museum and keep the staff there relaxed about us damaging anything if something was to go wrong.
We're really concerned here about looking after not just the specimens but also our grade 1 listed buildings. So everywhere you look in the building there's decoration, there's beautiful carvings. So I was very reassured by the setup of the drones themselves, that the blades weren't kind of open, and also that we had 2 really excellent pilots flying here as well.
The ducts changed slightly. It's maybe a slightly more fragile than the previous version, but I guess this is also to like save some weight. The drone is slightly lighter, and that also like is required to get such a high flight time. Another thing we should talk about is the design changes or improvements compared to the older version. Here on Avata 2, the body got slimmer, more aerodynamic, the weight distribution got improved. We don't have now a pusher design. You can see that the weight in general along this axis got optimized. The batteries got slimmer as well.
Well, previously the Avata 1 was targeted specifically more towards the beginner market and people looking to get into FPV. For the Avata 2, I would say this is targeted for both beginners and professionals. As a professional, using a Cinewoop from DJI just makes things so much easier. When we build our own, we have GPS in, but it's just not even close to the same level as the GPS in the DJI drones. So you have so much more confidence in your drone, which means you can push it further, you can go to more difficult locations, knowing that if anything goes wrong, your drone is just going to fly back to you.
What time is it?
It's 5 o'clock
a.m.
Just got stuck a little bit in traffic, but now here we are with the dune, with the sunrise. I don't think there's going to be a sunrise.
The floor was hard. I had no pillow, but the night sky made up for it. So overall, 7 out of 10.
One of my favorite things about this drone is the altitude hold. It just makes doing fly-throughs so much easier. It'll maintain its altitude absolutely perfectly. This is probably the hardest thing about flying an FPV drone for a fly-through, is the bobble up and down.
For example, if you have an indoor shoot, let's say a real estate shoot, and you want to fly through like the rooms, with this drone it's much easier because it just keeps the altitude, and you can just like really focus on your like movement, and you don't have to also like control the altitude. The camera improved a lot compared to the O3. Now we have the same sensor like the Action 4 camera, which the image is not identical, but it's much better than the O3.
It's now at the stage where this drone, the camera, can compete with the action cameras on the market. That means that if you're someone who is used to building your own FPV cine whoops and putting action cameras on top and then filming fly-throughs or one takes, those kind of things, this drone is now at the stage where it will compete with those.
So it's definitely a step up, and I would actually feel comfortable to get a lot of content, especially for like social media. Let's also talk about the new Goggle 3, as there are also some upgrades or improvements. You can see that the base looks kind of similar than the Goggle 2, but there is a few upgrades you should know about. There's like now this see-through features to cameras. So for example, if you tap your goggle twice, you can see a live feed of what is around you. So for example, if you don't know if you're pointing in the right direction and you're about to lose signal, you can like readjust your head. You have that thing here on the top, which kind of makes your goggles like fall down from your forehead, so you don't have as much pressure than before. I know it looks a little bit different, but this makes it much more comfortable to wear the goggles. You can see here, this is a very soft, almost like looks like a jellyfish material, but that just like makes sure that you don't have the light leaks you might have before with the older goggles. You can see here now you can like tighten it like a helmet, and there's now a bigger battery in the back integrated.
Overall transmission is exceptional. The range is crazy. We're flying this drone out of Madeira, down mountains, all of those sort of things.
Full send down this ridgeline over there. That ridgeline is 1.2 kilometers away. And I flew it over there and then flew the whole length of the ridgeline. It's been crazy. And surprisingly, this thing performs really nicely in a dive. The battery life is insane, just keeps on going. The coolest thing that I found about this is the return to home feature. It's actually saved the drone twice today, where I've taken lines that I would never normally have risked, gone behind a rock or something like that, and the return to home feature's kicked in. Drone's popped up and flown back here super reliably.
It goes much further. Places where I had issues with penetration before, I had really nice signal. Also, what is really nice is, probably you're familiar when you start losing signal before, you just saw it gets a little bit blurry. Now this one feels a bit different, so it almost looks like analog, so like you have like slow glitches coming in, but just a little bit. So I feel more comfortable when I start losing signal. I know it's hard to explain, but overall I think the transmission system is more powerful. You can fly further.
ND filters now have this little pinch removable system, makes them getting them off a breeze. You just clip them off like that and clip them back on. Much easier than the previous system. No tinting when we were grading the footage. You get an 8, a 16 and a 32 with the DJI set. Internal 42GB storage now, so if you forget your SD card you can pretty much shoot the whole day on the internal storage. But if you do have an SD card and you prefer using that workflow, then the SD card slot is right beside the USB slot inside here, which is now not inside the duct. Really easy to get to, way better design. The flight performance of this drone is exceptional, really good for a cine whoop. Indoors it flies faultlessly. Outdoors it's brilliant unless you're in crazy wind.
So when you fly in high wind, it's just harder with these drones because you don't have as much power and because you have those safety features, which just makes it harder to fly in wind. But this is just more a characteristic of a cine whoop in general. The other thing is, if you want to fly really, really fast, I flew with this drone up to like 100 kilometers per hour, like downhill. But normally when you fly, let's say at 40 degrees angle and you go really fast, you go like maybe 70, 80, but it's just not a speed drone. If you need something really, really fast to chase like a fast sport car, this is also not the right drone for that purpose.
It no longer has any tumble issue like the previous version. Now you can pretty much do any maneuver flawlessly.
The next thing I want to talk about, I never thought I would promote this, but the new motion controller is really, really nice and very intuitive. So for example, on the trip, a lot of like people asked, can I also fly the drone? And we all know if you give someone like this controller, a normal controller, it's really hard for them to fly, especially at the beginning, especially with the throttle. But with the motion controller, it's way more intuitive. And I think that's also an upgrade to the previous version. You can see the motion controller itself got smaller. It feels very ergonomic, and just the fact that you can literally like give throttle and with the movements of your hand and have this button close by, it just makes the learning curve, especially at the beginning, very easy. So you can give this motion controller to like someone who's never flown a drone, and with the safety feature of the drone, that person already can have an amazing flight experience and already acclimatize to then like more and more advanced flight maneuvers later on.
This drone has 3 modes, normal mode, sport mode and manual mode. They all give you various dynamicness to fly the drone in. Normal mode is like a normal DJI drone, you can move in these axes. Sport mode gives you the same but a lot more speed, and then eventually when you progress to manual mode you can go into do anything you want with the drone upside down, no matter what. This gives a really like natural progression path for a beginner who's starting off, because they can get to the gist of wearing the goggles, experiencing how the drone flies, the sort of depth perception, all of those kind of things, before they progress upwards, which is super helpful.
And here we are. The dune is not enough, we have to go to the top. And we're gonna bring the couch all the way to the top.